Welcome to your Houston Rewind for January 16th through the 20th. I'm KHOU 11 digital anchor Brandy Smith. We know catching up on the news can be a little overwhelming, especially in a city like Houston, where it doesn't stop. So every weekend, we take this opportunity to fill you in on some of the stories you may have missed. Let's rewind. On MLK Day of all days, someone targeted a Houston area neighborhood with racist flyers. But neighbors in Mission Bend told Jason Miles they won't let those messages affect how they live.
We're not showing what's written on these flyers, but safe to say they have a white supremacist bent.
I thought maybe somebody had dropped something out of the car.
Shauna, who doesn't want to be identified, found one Sunday morning in her driveway before posting about it on social media.
I think their goal is to try to divide us, but they can't do that. They'll never be able to do that because we're all here to stand together.
The flyers are enclosed in plastic baggies with corn kernels to weigh them down, which at least something found appealing. Two of Shauna's neighbors threw them straight in the trash once we pointed them out. The flyers are similar to those distributed recently in other Houston neighborhoods, including the ones thrown out on the northeast side by people in a car caught in this surveillance video.
And it's going to take all of us to continue to fight this.
It's also been the topic of a town hall meeting in the Heights, during which HPD said there's not much they can do since it's free speech, unless activity ramps up. Shauna says her son used gloves to pick up the bag left in front of her home just in case something was on it, and hopes those behind it never show up again.
Because we're not having it here. Not in Mission Bend.
Though many people enjoyed the day off work Monday, some still took time to give back to their communities in the spirit of Dr. King. Adam Bennett showed us the service projects Houstonians worked on Monday.
On this holiday, volunteers from Reliant and Rebuilding Together Houston were hard at work in 3rd Ward. They were replacing the patio at the longtime home of 93-year-old Hattie Jones and building her a wheelchair ramp. Contractors have already made extensive repairs inside. They want to make the house stable enough for Ms. Jones to age in place.
Homeownership is decreasing in Houston among Hispanic families and Black families. So it means a lot to keep the house and the family. And a lot of times we see 3 or 4 generations of a family that all live in a house. Or maybe it's even just grandkids or great-grandkids coming over after school. But everybody deserves a safe place to live.
Just down the street at Minute Maid Park, fans donated to the Houston Astros Canned Food Drive. It benefits the Houston Food Bank, a true team effort to level up our city. Adam Bennett, KHOU 11 News.
Last weekend, a new Miss Universe was crowned. She's a Houston area native. And not only did Miss USA, our Bonnie Gabriel, become Miss Universe, she shared with Marcelino Benito what it's like to make history.
The new Miss Universe is
28-year-old Arbany Gabriel breaking barriers.
USA!
Crowned Miss Universe in New Orleans Saturday.
I was in disbelief. I wasn't sure if it was really me who won. Everybody was cheering so loud. I could barely even hear them say my name. I saw them coming towards me with the sash and the crown and everything. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I really did win. And I was just so happy. It was the best feeling in the world.
Has it settled in now a couple, day and a half later?
Little by little, each day, it still feels unreal.
She was the first Filipina American to win Miss Texas, Miss USA, and now the Miss Universe pageant.
It's not only a win for me, it's a win for my family and a community and all the women and little girls that are messaging me. And I really just hope this brings a message of inspiration and hope that women and young girls, they can be the first to do anything.
All night, Gabriel set herself apart. In the swimsuit competition, donning a cape she designed herself using plastic bottles. The fashion designer even paid homage to her hometown on the international stage, strutting in a NASA-inspired moon costume, weighing 33 pounds.
This is a win for my city. I am so happy to represent Houston. I'm a born and raised H-Town girl. I'm looking forward to coming home and just celebrating with everybody. I feel Houston proud. I feel like I'm putting Houston on the map even more.
Ultimately, it was her answers on stage.
I would use it to be a transformational leader.
that sealed the win over Miss Venezuela and Miss Dominican Republic, earning loud applause when suggesting Miss Universe allow women older than 28 compete for the crown.
It doesn't matter what age you are. You shouldn't feel too young or too old for anything to try and start something new and really make something happen for yourself.
Now the Houston native, known for working as a sewing instructor for domestic violence survivors and using sustainable materials in her clothing line, will spend the next year representing women around the world.
I want to amplify my message of using fashion as a force for good. And I'm really looking forward to that because Houston has shown me so much love. I have so much love for H-Town.
Marcelino Benito, KHOU 11 News.
If you want to watch Marcelino's entire interview with Miss Universe, it is streaming now on KHOU 11 Plus. You can also find it on our KHOU 11 YouTube channel. A new Rice Village coffee shop is generating a lot of buzz. People are driving from all over just to get a cup of joe from Biddy and Bose. Anayeli Ruiz explained how the shop is making a difference for families.
This may look like your average coffee shop, but look again.
Anything else?
Biddy and Bose coffee is a perfect blend between a strong cup of joe and inclusivity. This shop is primarily staffed by adults with developmental disabilities, Down syndrome, autism, cerebral palsy, and others.
It's sort of a bridge between where people without disabilities and where people with disabilities are. It's a place for them to come together and experience each other in a very familiar environment, a coffee shop.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Giving an opportunity to people like Ryan.
I greet customers and I take orders from drink orders and food orders from the customers, and I just greet them. I really like what I do.
And with the help of supervisors, the employees do it all. They make the drinks, clean, and even call out the order. Everything to make this shop a success. Something the community is embracing.
We wanted to support Biddy and Bo's mission of allowing individuals with intellectual disabilities to show others what they're capable of and what their abilities are.
And family members of those working behind the counter are happy their loved ones are given a chance to join the workforce.
He always provokes a smile. He always likes to make people happy, so he engages with them. He wants to make them feel comfortable.
They hope this is an example for other businesses to wake up and smell the coffee.
This is all it takes to include people with disabilities in the workforce. It doesn't take an army of people, it just takes people with commitment and compassion and courage to do it.
Because the employees here say they're ready to grind.
I want to work here for a long time, at least until I can retire. I think Starbucks would not be as patient as to help people with disabilities.
Biddy and Bose is open every day from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. If you're interested in a job here, you can head to our website at KHOU.com. In Rice Village, Anayeli Ruiz, KHOU 11 News.
Biddy and Bose is open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day. If you're interested in applying for a job, we have a link in this KHOU.com article. He witnessed his son's murder after an Astros game and dreaded reliving it during a trial. Tuesday, hours after a big development in the case, Paul Castro sat down with Mia Gradney to talk about how he's coping.
It was middle of last week when we got told that there might be a possibility for this to happen.
What happened was a plea deal for the murder suspect in 17-year-old David Castro's shooting death after an Astros game. A judge sentenced road rage shooter Gerald Williams to 30 years today before Dad Paul Castro and family in court.
30 was our minimum, and 30 seemed to be their maximum, and so it just happened to be that. But it's so weird bartering my son's life, with years for a convicted felon who went on and committed another crime. It's surreal.
That night and the past 18 and a half months have been so very painful.
Not a day goes by where I don't have images from that night flash before my eyes.
Paul Castro wanted to avoid piling on.
If it meant that we didn't have to put ourselves through the rigors of a trial, we didn't have to go through the nightmare again, didn't have to hear, any lies that he might tell from the stand. All of that was just too much to consider, and especially trying to keep my son, who was also in the truck, my other son, off the witness stand was important.
His decision reinforced today by Williams' lack of remorse. He has still never apologized.
Paul Castro tells us Williams will have to serve at least 15 of the 30 years to which he was sentenced. The Rockets season isn't looking good. How would you describe it? Rough? Struggling? As Jason Bristol shared Tuesday, former Rocket John Wall chose a different word.
Trashing the Rockets by calling them
trash.
Ooh, John Wall now with the Clippers not holding back about his 19 months in Houston on the Run Your Race podcast.
I mean, we lost 20 in a row. We were trying to lose on purpose, tanking.
Yeah. And now, what's most troubling when it comes to the here and now, and will the Rockets respond? Well, John Wall seems to claim the team is not properly developing some of its younger players, mentioning Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., and KJ Martin by name.
This shit y'all getting away with over here, you go to any other teams, you'd be out the league. You wouldn't play.
You're not playing.
I wouldn't play.
No facts.
So I'm trying to explain that to them because they think it's sweet.
Now, what that stuff is, maybe bad habits, we don't know. John Wall didn't elaborate. I contacted the Rockets asking if GM Rafael Stone would have a response, but didn't hear back. Of course, the Rockets have the worst record in the NBA at 10-32. Lots of losses could mean more high draft picks. And while John Wall calls the situation
trash,
the reality is if these top prospects don't become stars, all of this losing will be a big waste.
The team responded on Wednesday. Here's Coach Steven Silas's reaction to Wall bashing the team.
I wouldn't say I was surprised what John said, but at some level, you know, there's frustration, and I get it. I understand it, but this is the direction that the organization is going in, and it's painful. There's nothing easy about a rebuild. You know, this organization felt that it was most important to rebuild at that time and felt that that was the best way to do it.
United Airlines showed off its newly expanded flight attendant training facility near Bush Airport on Wednesday. The facility features a number of hands-on training areas to get employees ready for in-flight emergencies. Janelle Bluda took us on a tour.
From an in-flight decompression,
oxygen mask should deploy at that point,
to an emergency landing.
Over here is a usable exit, which would be the overwing exit.
United Airlines' new flight training facility teaches it all. Even water landings, where flight attendants learn exactly what to do from inside the plane.
Stand back, stand back, stand back.
To out.
She'll inflate her vest.
The facility featuring a new 125,000-gallon pool and mock fuselage to practice a safe evacuation of a plane into the water.
She would just go ahead and board onto the side raft.
It's hands-on training.
Just being able to put it into action, to be able to jump into the water, to board a raft, to feel like what it feels like to board a raft.
You can't learn from a textbook.
For us, this facility brings to life really what's on paper when it comes to training.
Today, the airline held a ribbon cutting, officially opening the expanded facility, inviting Mayor Sylvester Turner.
Things are continuing to happen out here at Intercontinental Airport.
And Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
And I'm very grateful that United has taken this seriously.
And going beyond safety, the facility also houses a cabin simulator, so flight attendants can also practice their customer service.
We do customer boarding, we do de-escalating techniques, and so a lot with service as well.
Under the 6.5-week training course, United says they can train more than 600 flight attendants a month at this new facility. In Houston, Janelle Bluda, KHOU 11 News.
11 high school welding teams from all across the state visited League City on Tuesday for a big competition. Photojournalist Eric Durelius revealed how desperate the field is for young welders.
I'd say it's pretty fun. It's kind of a race against the clock.
It's great for like someone that wants to go out and do something with their hands.
This gives our kids an opportunity to bridge a gap between what they're learning in the lab and what industry's looking for in the real world.
Holding events like this gives the next generation of welders an opportunity to come out here and refine their crafts and learn some professional skills for their trade.
It's really cool to get that kind of support where industry recognizes what you're doing and they want to be a part of it.
The building aspect of it is what I like, having the finished product at the end, coming from nothing to into something.
I just think what the kids are doing is great, and it makes them a better person, and it makes our country a better country.
It's so proud to see them want to come to class. I have kids who, we have agreements that as long as they're making an A in their other core class or other class, their teacher, if all their work is done, will let them come back to the shop. And so we see kids that might have been a C or a B student are now A students because they want to come back and practice for the next event. They're proud. I have kids that wear their beat up welding jackets like a Letterman jacket down the hallways at school when it's cold because they're proud of what they do.
It means a lot because that means that a lot of other people want to see us.
It's hard sometimes, but in the end, it's worth it. You see it's something you built, and you look back at it and be like, I built that.
The Houston mayor's race is 10 months away, but candidates are already raising historic amounts of money for their campaigns. Gerald Harris broke down the race.
In the race for Houston's next mayor,
money matters a lot.
In one of the largest cities in the country, candidates will need to begin building out messaging to attract voters.
It's a big city. There are a lot of voters, and there are a lot of new voters. That's a tough nut to crack for campaigns because you've got to be able to spend money to get at those voters.
In 2022, 4 candidates for mayor raised more than $1 million each. Former Harris County interim clerk Chris Hollins, a Democrat, raised $1.6 million. His campaign says they broke a record for number of donors, total contributions, and small dollar contributions. Democratic State Senator John Whitmire and Amanda Edwards, a former at-large council member and U.S. Senate candidate, each raised $1.3 million.
Candidates with a unique voice are going to get a lot more attention, and voters and donors like to see momentum.
Houston attorney Lee Kaplan also raised $1.3 million. Political insiders say the early fundraising points to the interest in highly competitive position candidates are in.
The candidates who are able to network really well, who have got a base of support, are the candidates who are going to raise a lot more money.
For State Senator Whitmire, he says along with the $1.3 million, he has $10 million cash on hand from his other race. City ordinance says he may use some of the dollars for his campaign for mayor, but political experts say it remains unclear, absent litigation, how much money could be moved over.
TV ads are going to eat up a lot of that money. Mark your calendars. Election Day is November 7th. If you've got the sniffles, there's a good chance it's more than just a cold, according to Houston's COVID wastewater testing. Lauren Tellerico shared there's a new COVID-19 variant taking over parts of the country.
Houston's wastewaters confirm what health officials thought was going to happen after the holidays.
A couple weeks ago, it really started taking off.
Dr. David Purse, Public Health Authority for Houston.
In Houston right now, it looks like the average positivity rate is 20%. That's pretty high, right?
It's very high. So, it's 1 out of 5 people who are going to the public testing sites are testing positive.
The viral load in the wastewater has also spiked, coming in at 659%. And that's just the average. The Park 10 plant towards Katy reports a 1,241% viral load and a test positivity rate of 29%. But if you're not hearing about lots of cases, there could be a reason.
I think that what's happening is I think a lot of people who have partial immunity, whether a previous infection or they got vaccinated, when they're becoming infected now, they're becoming so mildly ill that they may not even be testing themselves and just going about their day.
In other words, they're treating this pandemic like an endemic, like the cold or flu. According to Houston Methodist, which tracks the COVID strains and variants, the most recent numbers show the XBB variants, taking over much of the country, only make up 14% of Houston area cases. The BQ variant is still most prominent. And although hospitalizations are lower than they used to be, Dr. Purse says we should still be taking precautions.
One thing about COVID, unlike the flu, is COVID, we know, will attack any organ system. So I don't trust COVID.
Health officials say the best protection from severe illness is still a vaccine, although the CDC reports only 15.9% of eligible people have gotten the bivalent shot that targets the latest variants.
So for those folks who remain unvaccinated, they're still at great risk.
I'm Lauren Tellerico, KHOU 11 News.
The road to the Final Four ends in Houston this year. The city's hosting the final round of March Madness for the 4th time, all of it airing right here on KHOU 11. But Jason Miles explained there's a lot happening off the court, too.
The competition, the crowds, the schools, the buzz, the madness.
Inside a decades-old basketball gym in the 3rd Ward, videos and music got an already excited crowd even more pumped about this year's Final Four.
So excited to be bringing this great event back for the 3rd time in the last 12 years.
NCAA officials and others held this event to highlight ancillary activities, or those planned beyond the battle for this trophy. Those include a music festival and fan fest downtown and literacy initiatives across the city, including a tournament-style reading competition among thousands of Houston 3rd graders like these.
And it's going to be able to benefit young men and women for years to come.
Another so-called legacy project is the renovation of this very gym at the Blue Triangle Community Center, chosen from nearly 20 applicants in collaboration with the NCAA as a way of giving back to host cities.
I am so thrilled, because it'll not only enhance the possibilities of encouraging young people to stay in sports, but also keep them off the streets, and that's a good thing.
A good thing.
Game on, Houston. Game on.
Thanks to a grand event.
Attending the basketball tournament is far from free, but many, if not most, of the corresponding events are. You can find a lot more information about everything leading up to the Final Four on KHOU.com. And a reminder, we're less than 2 months away from Selection Sunday on March 12th. That's when you'll find out if your team is going dancing. If you're tired of those high electricity bills, a vote in Austin Thursday could mean you'll pay even more down the road. Supporters say it will shore up grid reliability, but critics fear consumers will end up picking up the tab. Investigative reporter Jeremy Rogalski got details about the complex model that has never been tested anywhere.
To ensure reliable power when it's really cold, really hot, or when wind and solar farms aren't pumping out enough megawatts.
And all in favor say aye.
Aye. Texas Public Utility Commissioners approved a path forward called a performance credit mechanism. In simple terms, ERCOT would award credits to power generators that perform during those high-stress times, and retailers must buy those credits in order to sell power to consumers. The hope, it will trigger new power plants to be built, but it all comes with a price.
This is going to cost a lot of money.
An estimated $450 million a year, which translates into a few dollars more a month for the average Texan.
I actually think the cost would be a lot higher.
Energy analyst Doug Lewin.
This is something the PUC desperately needs to do, is to have additional analysis of what these costs would actually look like.
And Lewin and others say there's no guarantee new plants will replace the aging Texas fleet.
They're literally making it up as they go along. No other market anywhere in the world has ever done this.
The PUC's action is subject to the input of Texas lawmakers. Hearings on the issue are expected this session. If the legislature gives the green light, it could take 3 to 4 years to implement the changes. Gerald Goins, the former Houston police officer charged in the deadly Harding Street drug raid, returned to court Thursday. Adam Bennett laid out why Goins' lawyers are asking the judge to toss out the indictments against him.
This morning, outside the 228th Criminal Court, Gerald Goins had this to say.
I just appreciate everything that the court is doing. I appreciate all the prayers that have been sent out to me. Thank you.
As for Goins' case, lawyers did all the talking inside the courtroom. The former Houston police officer is charged with murder and lying to obtain a no-knock warrant to raid a home on Harding Street back in January 2019. 2 innocent homeowners and their dog were killed, and 4 officers were shot and injured. Goins was later charged with engaging in organized crime in connection with an alleged long-running overtime theft by several HPD officers. Today, Goins' lawyers asked Judge Frank Aguilar to quash the indictments. Lawyers argued those documents don't spell out the specifics of the charges clearly enough.
We believe that these accusations are missing some very important portions of the law.
During the hearing, prosecutors claimed that argument doesn't hold up. They told Judge Aguilar they've turned over all evidence and information.
We are entitled to know exactly what we're dealing with in terms of an accusation so that we can have the opportunity to have a fair fight in a court of law.
Judge Aguilar said he'll decide next Tuesday. That's also the date of a hearing on motions by the defense to dismiss for prosecutorial misconduct and to change the venue.
We believe that next Tuesday will be a very important day.
Prosecutors declined to comment after today's hearing. Adam Bennett, KHOU 11 News.
Sugar Land police say license plate readers helped them track down the man accused of killing an A-Leaf teacher earlier this month. Janelle Bluda explored how this technology is helping police fight crime.
License plate readers are being put in neighborhoods across Houston as extra protection, but as an added bonus, police might even be able to use them to solve a crime that happened somewhere else. Beloved third grade teacher at A-Leaf ISD, Wendy Dwan, was killed January 7th in her own backyard, police say, by the hands of 26-year-old Charvis Thompson. They say Dwan and Thompson had met on an online dating app a week prior and say he shot her after an argument and then fled. We just had the vehicle description. Immediately after the shooting, police took that vehicle description and entered it into a license plate reader database.
If we have a vehicle description, then we can go into the system, we can input that vehicle description, and it will actually search for the reads that corresponds to those kind of vehicles.
And they found a match. The database confirmed the suspect's license plate, and officers arrested him in Louisiana. Sugar Land police have roughly 100 readers like these throughout the city, and they're adding 100 more. But the camera that caught this suspect actually came from a neighborhood HOA who had a flock safety automated license plate reader.
They're motion activated, so they're not doing anything until a vehicle passes the camera.
Through still images, the reader collects car descriptions and license plates from the past 30 days, and neighborhoods can decide if they want to share that info with law enforcement.
A neighborhood can essentially purchase this, share it with law enforcement, and take themselves completely out of the process.
Taking neighborhood watch to another level.
Anything that can help us out and be a tool to lead to investigative leads would really help us out.
Sugar Land police want you to know that if you are interested in adding these readers to your neighborhood, you can contact them for help and guidance. Back to you.
Rosenberg Animal Control needs your help identifying a woman who was caught on camera dumping a caged cat in a trash can. Michelle Choi offered an update on how that cat is doing.
Fortunately, we're told the cat is safe and healthy, but yeah, Rosenberg Animal Control says not only did this woman dump this caged cat into a trash can at a park, but what she did was all caught on camera. This happened last Thursday morning at Seabourn Creek Nature Park. You can see the woman shows up in a dark color Ford Focus. She then gets out of the car, grabs the pet carrier from the back seat, then walks towards a gazebo and casually puts the carrier with the cat inside into that trash can.
If no one had seen this happening, that cat would have been in that container, in the trash can, locked up with no access to food, water, shelter. And that's where, the animal cruelty becomes a thing. That's just not acceptable.
Yeah, fortunately, someone did see the cat being dumped and quickly rescue the animal. 2-year-old King Triton, that's his new name, is now at a shelter in Rosenberg and is up for adoption. Meanwhile, Animal Control is asking for your help finding this woman who could face animal cruelty charges. Animal Control is also hoping this troubling story serves as a reminder to other owners. If you need to surrender your animal, contact your local shelter for help. Back to you.
Friday, the nephew of a Vietnam veteran who died at the hands of Houston police officers in the 70s spoke to a new class of cadets. Ugochi Iloka shared his message to young officers in training.
On HPD's Cultural Diversity Bus Tour, their cadets stopped by this Joe Campos Torres memorial site. It was created last April to remember a veteran brutalized by Houston police who left him for dead.
Back in 1977, this area looked a lot different. Standing here on the Joe Campos Torres Plaza.
Richard Molina is the nephew of Joe Campos Torres.
It's about telling the story of Richard's family.
Richard's uncle, Joe Torres, was arrested for disorderly conduct 45 years ago by 6 Houston police officers who took him to this spot.
Just kind of gave him a pretty brutal beatdown while he was still subdued.
He shared with cadets that a lot of people don't know the history of these waters or his uncle.
There were racial slurs thrown at him, before he was essentially pushed into the bayou.
Torres's body was discovered by a boater days later, and the officers involved were eventually convicted, even though lighter sentences were given.
Something that your gut feeling is telling you, no, that's not the way it's done. you need to say something.
This story, Richard says, was told to cadets, so what happened to his uncle doesn't repeat itself with the new generation of officers.
Your line of work and what y'all are getting ready to do essentially involves y'all being out there with the community.
Ugochi Iloka, KHOU 11 News.
The Southeast Texas climate means we get fresh produce all year long. Most of us grab it from the grocery store, but a farm in Alvin wants you to pick your own. Four-wheeling around Froberg's farm, Tyler Froberg points out the crops coming up.
Everything from strawberries, which we're best known for, to seasonal greens like collards and mustards, and even our famous blackberries.
His great-great-grandparents started farming in Alvin when they got here around the turn of the century. His great-grandpa bought this property in 1936.
In 1942, when World War II broke out, the draft took all the young men and he didn't have any labor. So he had a crazy idea, I'm gonna let people pick their own.
And Tyler's Uncle Alfred shares they did. Thousands of them.
After that, Grandpa said, we'll never ship another strawberry. Everything will be pick your own.
Look, strawberries from the grocery store are fine, but if you have never come out and picked one fresh off the plant, can't recommend it enough. This year's crop mostly survived the December freeze, but you can tell where the frost cloth blew off some rows.
We do our best. Ultimately, we can't control Mother Nature. We can't control how cold it gets or how quickly it warms up. After that, we can only hope for the best and do all the preparation that we can for it.
Tyler explains all of that on his popular TikTok page, which has more than 700,000 followers.
How it's grown, how it's harvested, that's what people are lacking, and we want to show people that.
Froberg's also offers produce in its farmers market, open daily. It's full of everything you'd expect to find at the store and more, from its pecan cracking machines to the homemade round and fried pies.
They're all super secret family recipes.
If you can't get out to Alvin as often as you'd like, here's a little good news. Froberg's opened up an online store so you can order shelf-stable items, including its strawberry preserves. We have a link on khou.com/living. If you're watching this on KHOU 11+, stay tuned. Up next, KHOU 11 reporter Grace White sat down with a woman shot in the same shooting that took the life of Migos rapper Takeoff. You can watch that full story as well as her extended interviews as soon as the Rewind wraps up. We hope that helped you catch up on this past week and you are ready for the next one. Remember, you can tune into KHOU 11 on air, online via khou.com and YouTube, as well as by using our KHOU 11+ app on Roku and Fire TV. Have a great week.